Good day to all of you. Today, I am delighted to share with you a simple yet powerful method to enhance your English listening skills, listening to English stories every day. Whether you are a beginner just starting to learn English or someone with a more advanced level, dedicating some time each day to listen to English stories can significantly boost your listening abilities and overall language comprehension. Let's start by exploring why stories should be our primary listening material. Stories have been an integral part of human communication and learning since ancient times. They are not only a means of entertainment, but also a powerful educational tool. When we listen to stories, our brains naturally engage in the process of imagining the scenes, characters, and events, which helps us better understand and remember what we hear. By listening to English stories, we can immerse ourselves in the language. Stories are diverse in nature, covering a wide range of genres and themes, from fairy tales and folk stories to modern short stories and classic literature. This variety makes stories an excellent resource for language learners of all levels, as they can choose content that matches their interests and proficiency levels. Moreover, stories often include dialogues, descriptions, and narratives that expose listeners to different accents, intonations, and expressions, all of which are crucial for developing a well-rounded understanding of English. Now, let's delve into the various benefits of listening to English stories daily. I will break this down into several key areas. One of the most significant benefits of listening to English stories regularly is that it helps develop a natural sense of the language. This sense refers to the ability to understand and use a language without consciously thinking about grammar rules or vocabulary. By frequently listening to English, our brains begin to recognize patterns, intonation, rhythm, and pronunciation. This kind of exposure helps us internalize the language, making it easier to understand spoken English in real-life situations. For example, when you listen to a story, you might notice the rising and falling intonations of sentences, the pauses, and the stress on certain words. These elements are all part of the natural flow of the language, and understanding them can greatly improve your listening comprehension. Over time, you'll start to anticipate how sentences are likely to be structured and where emphasis might be placed, making it easier to follow conversations even when the content is unfamiliar. Listening to stories is an excellent way to expand your vocabulary and understand grammar and context. Unlike studying vocabulary lists or grammar rules in isolation, stories provide a rich context that makes learning more meaningful and memorable. When you hear a new word in a story, you not only learn the word itself but also see how it is used in a sentence, what kind of expressions it is paired with, and what kind of emotions it conveys. For instance, if you listen to a story about a character's adventure in the jungle, you might learn words related to nature, emotions, actions, and descriptions, such as canopy, rustling, daring, or scampered. You also get to understand how these words are used naturally in sentences, making it easier to remember and use them correctly in your own speech and writing. Moreover, stories often contain a variety of grammatical structures. From simple present and past tenses to more complex forms like the present perfect or conditional sentences, listening to stories exposes you to how these structures are used in everyday speech. This kind of exposure helps reinforce your understanding of grammar without the need for intensive study or memorization. You learn by listening, by noticing, and by repeating. Another benefit of listening to English stories every day is the improvement of concentration and listening comprehension. In today's world, filled with distractions and constant information overload, it can be challenging to focus for long periods. Listening to a story requires concentration to understand the plot, the characters, and the dialogues. Regularly practicing this kind of focused listening can train your brain to become better at processing spoken English. Imagine you are listening to a detective story where every detail matters. You need to pay close attention to the clues, the characters' statements, and the unfolding events to understand who the culprit might be. This kind of active listening sharpens your ability to pick up on important details, understand context, and draw inferences, all of which are essential skills for effective listening in any language. Furthermore, stories often include different accents and speaking styles, such as a British narrator versus an American character, or a child versus an elderly person. By listening to these variations, you become more adaptable and better equipped to understand English as it is spoken by different people in different situations. Confidence is key when learning any new skill, and language learning is no different. Listening to stories that are within your comfort zone helps build confidence, because you become familiar with the vocabulary, expressions, and flow of the language. Listening to the same story multiple times can also be incredibly beneficial. Each time you listen, you may notice new details, hear words more clearly, or understand sentences you previously missed. This repeated exposure reinforces learning and builds a strong foundation for more advanced listening. For example, children often listen to the same story over and over again, not because they don't understand it, but because each repetition deepens their comprehension and enjoyment. The same principle applies to language learners of all ages.
Listening to the same story multiple times can enhance understanding, increase comfort with the language, and build a strong sense of achievement, which motivates further learning. In addition to improving listening skills, regularly listening to English stories can also enhance your pronunciation and speaking skills. When you listen to native speakers telling stories, you hear the natural pronunciation of words, sentence stress, intonation patterns, and rhythm of the language. Try this exercise. After listening to a story, pause and repeat sentences out loud, mimicking the narrator's voice. Pay attention to the way they pronounce words, the pitch of their voice, and the speed at which they speak. This kind of imitation practice helps you develop a more native-like accent and speaking style, which can be very beneficial for communication. You can also record yourself reading the same story, and compare it with the original narration. This will help you notice differences in pronunciation and intonation, allowing you to adjust and improve over time. Listening to English stories also gives you exposure to different cultural contexts, which are often not covered in traditional language textbooks. Stories are filled with cultural nuances, references, and idioms that reflect the way native speakers use the language in everyday situations. For example, you might hear idioms like "break the ice" or "under the weather" in a story. These expressions may not make literal sense if you translate them directly into your own language, but hearing them used in context helps you understand their meanings and how to use them appropriately. Moreover, stories often reflect the values, beliefs, and traditions of the culture they originate from. By listening to stories from different English-speaking countries, you can gain a deeper understanding of the cultural diversity within the English language. A key point I want to stress is that it doesn't matter what specific stories you listen to. The important thing is the act of listening and consistent practice. Some people worry that if the content is too simple, it won't help them improve. However, even simple stories can be highly beneficial, especially for beginners. The goal is to create a daily habit of listening to English, and as you progress, you can gradually increase the complexity of the content. Simple children's stories, fairy tales, or fables often use repetitive language and simple sentence structures, making them ideal for beginners. They help reinforce basic vocabulary and grammar, making it easier to understand more complex material later on. As you become more comfortable with listening, you can move on to short stories, podcasts, or even audiobooks of novels and non-fiction. Now that we've discussed the numerous benefits, let's talk about how to get started with listening to English stories every day. The first step is to choose stories that interest you. If you are interested in what you are listening to, you are more likely to stay engaged and motivated. Start with topics you enjoy, whether it's mystery, romance, science fiction, or historical dramas. The key is to find stories that captivate you and make you want to keep listening. There are many resources available for finding stories, such as free audiobooks from libraries, story podcasts, and English learning platforms that offer graded listening materials. You can also explore YouTube channels that provide storytelling content or apps specifically designed for language learners. Next, set aside a dedicated time each day for listening practice. This could be 15 to 30 minutes in the morning or before going to bed. The important thing is consistency. Regular practice, even if it's just for a short period each day, can lead to significant improvements over time. Try to make this a part of your daily routine. You could listen to a story while having breakfast, during your commute, or while doing household chores. By integrating listening practice into your daily activities, you make it a regular habit without needing to set aside special time. Simply listening passively is good, but engaging actively with the content can enhance your learning experience. Take notes on new words or phrases, summarize the story in your own words, or discuss it with a friend. You can also try predicting what will happen next in the story, or ask yourself questions about the plot, characters, or themes. Another effective technique is shadowing, where you repeat what you hear word for word while trying to match the speaker's pace and intonation. This not only improves listening comprehension but also pronunciation and speaking fluency. There are many tools and resources available to support your listening practice. Subtitles and transcripts can be very helpful, especially if you are a beginner. Start by listening without any support, then use subtitles or transcripts to check your understanding. Additionally, there are numerous apps and websites that offer interactive listening exercises, quizzes, and flashcards to reinforce vocabulary and comprehension. Some platforms also provide slow speed options or allow you to adjust the playback speed, which can be useful for challenging content. In conclusion, listening to English stories every day is an effective, enjoyable, and versatile way to improve your listening skills and overall language proficiency. It helps develop a natural sense of the language, expands your vocabulary and grammar knowledge, improves concentration and comprehension, and builds confidence. Remember, it doesn't matter what you listen to as long as you do it consistently. So, start today, find stories that interest you, and make listening to English a regular part of your life. You will be amazed at how quickly your listening skills improve and how much more confident you become in using English. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoy your journey of learning English through stories.